Hello and welcome to Kinsei-Do Corner. Have you ever wondered how to unlock your full potential and live your healthiest, most fulfilling life? Then this podcast is here to help you achieve just that. We dive deep into the world of health and performance, exploring how to move better, feel better, and live a healthier, more fulfilling life. I chat with inspiring coaches, athletes, health experts, and high performers from all walks of life to learn from their stories, mindsets, and lifestyle choices. Whether you're an experienced high performer or new to the world of health and well-being, I'm in your corner to guide you on the path to being the healthiest, happiest, and highest performing version of yourself. Let's go. Alright, welcome back to Kinsei-Do Corner, everyone. On today's episode, I've got Leon, who is the co-author of the book The Daily Athlete, and we will talk about this book in depth in this episode, and you'll find out what it is and why you should read it. But maybe first of all, Leon, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited for this conversation.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about yourself, because most of my audience, including myself, are not obviously familiar with your background. I can't claim that I've had an actual published author on my show yet, so this is great. But yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, and then maybe we can from there jump onto how you came up with the idea of this book and what it is about.
Yeah, sure, happy to. Where do I start? Obviously, I've published a couple of books, but this is not my main profession. So I wish to now say, hey, I'm a great author, and I just do this for a living. But maybe I can start a little bit earlier. I grew up in Germany, Black Forest, and soccer was a big part of my life, which through my youth and then also through college, just really was the main part of my life. And it took me to the United States, where I lived for a few years. I lived 5 years in the US, where I studied, and then also played collegiate soccer. This is also where I met Max, or how I met Max, the guy I wrote The Daily Athlete with, whom we might speak about in a moment. Lived in the US, was highly influenced by being a student athlete in the US. Still a big part of my life is influenced by that, but also went to school there. After my undergraduate degree, I decided to move back to Germany and say, hey, I really want to continue with grad school. Did a master's degree there, and then also my PhD, which was focused on physical activity and exercise in a very specific patient group. Really enjoyed the academic part, and was an academic for a few years. Transitioned that about 3 years ago. I transitioned out of that and wanted to transition into industry a little bit. So even though I love being a scientist or an academic, there was a few things that I didn't like about it. And about 3 years ago, joined a US company that focuses on wearables, Garmin. Most of your listeners probably know this company, where I still take care of research of the academic world, but focus on partnership management there. So this is my professional life, I would say, but outside of that, I also enjoy writing, I enjoy learning, and this is where some of the books are coming from. This is probably me in a nutshell, really, on a professional setting.
Yeah, thank you. That's really interesting, and maybe we won't dive into this in this episode, because this is more my real personal interest. But I'm really interested about the whole collegiate soccer and becoming basically. I assume you were able to obtain a scholarship due to your performance levels, due to your contribution to the team. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I played at a relatively high level in Germany, went through the academy of SC Freiburg, so a Bundesliga club. Mm-hmm. And at some point you have to make a decision, either, hey, it's going to continue the professional path, which for 99% of the guys going through this academy isn't possible, including me. but then you know you're 17, 18 years old, and I thought, hey, I've invested so much time and so much effort the last 10 years into this, and now in Germany I have to make this decision on, do I go to school, so university, or do I continue playing at a high level, which I wanted to do both. I wasn't willing to give up soccer at a high level, and I still wanted to go to university because I clearly wasn't going to make a living for the rest of my life with soccer. And yeah, through many coincidences, I heard about this opportunity to play collegiate soccer in the US. That was in about 2010 or 11, so back then the topic wasn't nearly as popular as it is today. I was very lucky, very fortunate to hear about this opportunity and kind of the insights they gave on who would be the right person for this, or who this could fit very well to. Kind of matched me, you know, academy background, but not making it quite to the pros. And then worked with an agency there to go to the US and found a really cool school that allowed me to do both. You know, play soccer at a good level and continue to do that, but at the same time really focus on school in a way that just isn't possible here in Germany.
Okay, yeah, that's really fascinating for me. Obviously, not for me myself. I'm past that age, but for my son, I'm seriously considering this. Well, considering this sounds like I have a choice, but it does sound like a very appealing option to be able to go to a very, let's say, to get a high standard education while still doing what you love, which in your and in his case is soccer, is football. But
I can highly recommend it. I mean, it's been a great experience, really, and the good thing is it's possible at a large variety of levels. Yeah, sorry.
Mm-hmm. No, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and the good thing is it's possible on a large variety of levels. Of course, if you're at the top level, the top schools are interested in you. But even at an average or lower level, there's still schools that are at the same level as you as an athlete, not only in soccer but in other fields, where, hey, you can continue doing sports at a good level, but the focus is also on education. So I can recommend it to anyone, but I might be a bit biased there.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. No, I mean, as long as it was a good experience and not a like where you feel it's too much of a commitment, right? You're basically being pulled in two directions. That kind of thing. If it's not that, then it's definitely a great option. Okay, let's swing over to the book and the kind of the professional side of what you do now. You did mention you were in academics, but you stopped, or you decided to move out of that as the research was. Yeah, what was it exactly? Was the research part not interesting? Was the bureaucracy? What was it?
Yeah, no, I think the research part and especially the academic work I really enjoyed. So I worked with patients with congenital heart defects, so patients who were ill since birth. They have a defect on their heart since they were born. We measured various things with them: their exercise capacity, their physical activity, their quality of life, and a few more things. So I really enjoyed that part, you know, the scientific part of it, but also the interaction with the patients. You know, learning from them a little bit. Okay, how do they? What is their life about? But also then transitioning this into academic findings, which maybe in a small degree contributes to some better treatment for them. So I really enjoyed that part. I did enjoy the people's part, but also the scientific vigor that's involved in that. What I didn't enjoy is you know, not necessarily bureaucracy, but just how the system, at least in Germany, is set up in a way that, you know, you're always on time limited contracts. You always have to look for your own funding, your own money, which up until a PhD level I think is totally fine. But after that, I also want a bit of more security, and you know, it's not even necessarily related to whether you produce good or average output. You always have this time limit and this limitation at funding. Of course, there's also, I mean, the universities are usually not the most fast moving institutions. I thought, hey, I've this athletic background, I've now this scientific background, but I also just want to now learn a little bit something new and maybe see if there's a good application of my skills on an industry level.
Okay. And and how did you jump from that to think, okay, maybe I should write a book?
Well, that's probably one of these coincidences where you probably don't think about it too much, which is a good thing. So the book was more of it started as a side project. So I have a good friend, his name is Max, whom I wrote these books with. And we got to know each other through collegiate soccer, through collegiate sports. He was part of he founded the agency that essentially helped me find a school in the US, and through first a working relationship, we became good friends. And part of that was always, hey, we had a common theme, and we like reading, and we like talking to each other, so we regularly talked to each other and said, hey, what are you reading? What am I reading? It was around the time, probably a little bit even before COVID started, so a little while ago. Both of us at a similar time were reading a book called The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday, and we really liked the book, and more or less on a phone call we said, hey, it would be cool to have something like this for athletes, but didn't think much about it, just was a part of the conversation. And then a couple weeks later we talked to each other again, and pretty much simultaneously or independent of each other said, like, hey, do you remember when we talked about the Daily Stoic and so that it was cool if there was something for this for athletes? So this really is how it started. So more of a, hey, this would be cool to have, and we thought, well, it would be good, and what could that look like? Let's think about it for a week. What could that look like? So we thought about it for a week. We're still pretty excited about the idea, without much hope, we said, hey, let's approach maybe a couple publishing houses, or the publishing house that published the German version of the Daily Stoic, because Max had a loose contact to them. So we asked them, hey, what would you think about something like the Daily Stoic, but just for athletes, a daily athlete, more or less? And they said, oh yeah, cool. What do you guys have? Obviously, we didn't have anything yet, so we had to come up with something. Yeah. We wrote the first 5, 6, 7 pages as kind of a draft, sent it to them, and they said, oh hey, this is cool. And this must have been June or so, or May or June. So how about a deadline in December? And of course, as naive as we were pretty excited for someone else thinking this was a cool idea. So as naive as we were, we said like, oh yeah, sure, let's do it. December 15th, we'll hand in the full manuscript. And really out of a coincidence and kind of a conversation I had with a good friend, we suddenly found ourselves in this project, which turned out to be way bigger than we initially anticipated.
Yeah, I bet. Okay, so you essentially had 6 months from not even first draft, from concept to publishing.
More or less. So our initial idea was actually to write it in English right away, because we both are pretty fascinated by the English, by just an American mindset and approach to sport. I was socialized very much through living in the US for 5 years, and so it was just a natural fit after reading the Daily Stoic. The publishing house said, hey, we're a German publisher, of course we'd want it in German. And they said, okay, might as well do it. And I think it was until July or so until we really got started on it. And then, really had until mid-December to work on it.
So at that point, you are both first-time authors, or either you or Max had already published something?
So aside from academic writing and my thesis and academic publishing, which is very far away from any sort of, let's say, commercial writing, it was the first time for me. Max has co-authored a couple of books before, but of this magnitude, this was really the first one. So it was good because we were able to take kind of a naive approach to it. It was an interesting process.
Oh, sorry, I lost the connection there for a little bit. But so I heard, so you and Max both kind of going into this almost blue-eyed in a sense, not really maybe fully understanding the magnitude of the challenge. And then, did you end up writing it in German and then translating it to English, or the other way around?
So yeah, we went through all this process of meeting the deadline in the end, and to be honest, it was I can talk about this relatively relaxed because it was really such a fun experience that just the process of working on it and the writing of it. That at the end of it, of course, it was then as with any deadline, it's a big push. But afterwards, we're almost a little sad that it's now over and not now finished. So yeah, the book was published in Germany, and honestly, for being first-time authors, it was an awesome success because we always said, hey, if just a few people who don't buy the book because they know us, it's already a success because someone picks this up and thinks this is a cool idea. Mm-hmm. Measured on that, it was a tremendous success, and it was super cool and super exciting. And so, yeah, that went on for about a year or so after publication. But this entire time, we never really lost the thought of, hey, our initial plan was to have an English version of that. And so after a year or so, we revisited that idea and said, hey, maybe it's time for the English version. Another half a year passed or so, and then we decided, okay, it's really time to do this now, which was a little bit more of a difficult process. So transitioning from a German book market into the English book market is, as we were told, incredibly difficult to nearly impossible. So some of the publishing houses that we talk to say, hey, 1 in a million of books usually makes that transition successfully. So in the end, we weren't able to find a publishing house because simply they say, hey, German book market doesn't necessarily exist for us in a manner that it does in the US or in an English-speaking world. And also there wasn't really a good fit for us. So another half a year passed, and we decided, hey, in the end, we really want this, we believe in this, and we also want this to exist in English. Let's just do it ourselves. And luckily, I imagine this to be much more difficult 10, 15 years ago. Luckily, with things as KDP and Amazon direct publishing, this is a much more democratic process. So we could just decide, hey, we'll do it ourselves. We did the translation ourselves, and we had quite a bit of experience from the first version, and decided to publish it ourselves. And finally, we're able to what we wanted to publish right from the beginning, the English version of it.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, obviously, I have no experience authoring or publishing anything, but it would sound to me that normally the process would be the other way around, right? You, with the first book, with being an unknown, you don't find a publishing house, so you have to publish yourself, and then after the success or at least the existence of that, then maybe you can get a publishing house to be interested to pick up your work. But it seems that was not the case. It was exactly the opposite way. Funny.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in the end, it's incredibly difficult to get a book contract anyways, because there's simply so much good work out there, so average work or bad work, and obviously publishing houses also are under immense economic pressure, so they need to choose and invest in the right ones and the ones they believe in. For a non-established author, it's very difficult already, and then the transition German to English book market it's usually the other way around, the American or the English-speaking book world is even that much larger, that there's so much more to choose from, and also with us being no names and at that time not really having any credibility in the book market. It was a very difficult process all the way to the point where we said, hey, in the end, this is our decision if we want to do this. And luckily we have such things as self-publishing formats, and decided to go that route. So
are you able to see the metrics, the data of how the German book is doing, how the self-published English book is doing? You can hear that I have no understanding of this market at all, but do you see how each of them are performing, so to say?
Yeah, obviously not in real time. I mean, it's a slow-moving world, the book market. But yeah, I mean, yes, we have insight on that, and I mean, in the end, it depends a little bit on what you define as successful. Like I said, for the German version, we didn't have any high expectations in terms of, hey, we need to reach this many people or that or whatever. In the end, it was, for me, it was such an enjoyable process that everything that came afterwards, like how does it sell and how do people like it, obviously is a nice thing. I mean, if book sells well, it's a nice thing. But really the focus for me was on the work. I enjoyed the work on it so much that everything that came afterwards was more or less a bonus, I would say. And it was similar in the English version. It was really just an enjoyable process of doing it. At the same time, the English-speaking book market is much more competitive and also much larger, so it's much more difficult to reach the right people. So we still believe that in the English-speaking world, there's quite a bit of room to grow, simply because there is, I don't know, 2.5 billion people speaking English, as opposed to about 100 million people speaking German. But I would say the focus for us was always on creating something cool and having fun doing so. Because in the end, whether it sells well or it doesn't sell well is up to so much chance, and there's so many coincidences involved. You know, does the right person pick it up at the right moment and think this is cool? It's good. I mean, yes, it's a nice outcome measure, but it's not really the most important metric for us.
Okay, yeah, that's definitely a good mindset to adopt in this case, right? Because, and obviously you mentioned the Daily Stoic, but this is exactly that, right? It's not in your control. You can only do the book. You cannot control whether someone reads it, whether someone likes it, whether people buy it. So let's get into the book itself a little bit. How did you? So I understand you read the Daily Stoic, which I love as well, and then from there you thought, okay, maybe we can have quotes and life kind of lessons that are more specific to athletes, to people who like sports and who like to be active. What was the next step after that? How did you go about like finding quotes? Because obviously the quotes itself are not only from athletes and coaches, they are from all walks of life. So how did you kind of structure, how did you go from this would be a cool idea to, okay, this is a little bit more what it will look like?
Yeah, so we really like the structure of the Daily Stoic, you know, which has a quote on top and then something that relates to that quote throughout the text. So we were pretty set on, hey, we want to have a similar format. So this is a daily thing that you don't necessarily have to read continuously. You can have it on your coffee table, or some people have it on next to their toilet or next to their coffee station in the morning. Just something that you can pick up and read a quote and then maybe some thoughts to it. So the structure was already quite given in terms of the daily layout. Hey, 365, or with a leap year 366 quotes. So the structure itself was pretty set right from the beginning. And then we started, again, relatively naive and said, hey, let's just start and see what kind of quotes do we have. Let's start with a little bit of collection, because we thought, hey, throughout, I mean, both of us have been athletes for 10, 15, 20 years. So both of us said, hey, we surely have a few that come to mind right away. So for the first couple of weeks, we just collected quotes. Turned out we had about 200 already or so, simply from things that we picked up, that we wrote down somewhere, that were guiding us along our own athletic past. And so really the first couple hundred were super easy to come up with. And then we also looked, hey, okay, these are the typical ones. What else is out there? What else can we find? The ones that, you know, everybody knows, the Michael Jordan quotes, the Kobe Bryant quotes, the very famous one. I mean, those are the ones you know, and those are the ones you find in any gym, in any sort of motivational calendar or something like that. And we wanted to go a little bit, say, off the beaten path and see, hey, what other cool stories are out there? and really got into research on interesting personalities. So and came across who was for example the first woman to run a marathon, or there was this cool story we found of a surfer rescuer in Hawaii who had a really inspiring story. And so we first looked at maybe a little bit more in the athletic endeavor, and then said, okay, but what else is out there? What did some politicians say, or scientists, or even average people? And so it really started to become this more of a hunt towards where else can we find cool quotes that might not necessarily come from the athletic world, but that we can then apply to the athlete. An athlete really defined in a very broad sense, meaning there's a cool quote that's also on the back of the book by Bill Bowerman, the co-founder of Nike. He said, if you have a body, you're an athlete. So really, not thinking about the athlete as the super high performance, world-class Olympic athlete, but more, hey, if you say you're an athlete and you do something with your body, then you are an athlete, and then you can find some inspiration in the book. And this is maybe then the structuring we did at the end. We said, hey, 365 days of just motivating quotes. This can become really, really, too much of one whole thing in the end. So we kind of then said, hey, okay, we seem to have these 4 themes, that in these quotes. Something inspiring, something, hey, motivation to get going, then some quotes and some thoughts on, okay, what does it take to deliver then actually, to focus, to be right in the moment. What happens after that was kind of the third category. So how do we deal with winning but also losing? And then the last category was what we called a little bit, behind or beyond just the grand scheme of sports or athletics, because sports is important, but there's also much more important things out there. So this was then, once we had all these quotes, we really saw these themes emerging, and that's also what we took to structure the book a little bit. But yeah, it really was a process. We didn't from the beginning have the idea of, hey, it has to look like this or it has to look like that. So we were also letting the content guide us a little bit.
Okay. So you basically went from each quote, and then the kind of the little story that goes with it is based on the quote, or did you? What I mean is, did you do it that way, or did you have stories that you wanted to tell, and then you had to find a quote that matched that story?
I would say a little bit both. I mean, of course, in the end, it's a book and it's very structured. The process there is not as structured, But as it is with if you have something that you're really working on and focusing on, like the book or any other part of life, things start coming to you. You see quotes everywhere, you see cool stories everywhere. So sometimes it was, hey, you found a quote and said, hey, this is cool, something resonates there with me, and then we either had a thought and how to develop it into a little bit of a text or a guidance or something like that right away. Sometimes it was just, hey, you found a quote and okay, this could be something there, but the right story still needs to come. Other times it was, you found a really cool life story of someone. For example, there's this guy, I can't remember his name, but this guy, he was on the Titanic, survived the Titanic, the sinking of the Titanic, and then went on to become a relatively famous tennis player at the time. So super cool story that needs to be told that no one has heard of before. There is much more to it than the 2 sentences I just said there. But then you say, hey, this is a cool story. Maybe I'll find a quote alongside of it. And then, so this is more a very unstructured process along the way. And in the end, it came all together quite well. But it was really a part where, sometimes you came across things, sometimes we didn't. And a big part of it, and this is why I was really happy to not do this by myself, was also the regular exchanges I had with Max, because there wasn't only motivation for him and me, but also, hey, I found this, what do you think about that? And those kind of things. You see what he's working on, I saw what he was working on, and vice versa. And that really helped us to match quotes and cool stories. Sometimes it was easier, sometimes it was a little bit more tricky.
Okay. On that particular, collaboration process, were you working at the same place? Were you both just working remotely and merging everything in a shared document? What did the process look like?
So I at that time already lived in Germany. Max lives in Spain with his family, so we did have plans to work on this together and physically in the same space. It was right during COVID, so we never had a chance to. So it ended up being just a work that we did completely, I'd say, remotely. But yeah, and thankfully with being able to connect relatively easy online and then also have a shared document structure for that. Yes, that was the way to go. We were, I think at that time talking almost daily about the book. The Daily Athlete requires daily communication. But that was never really a difficulty or where we said, we wish we'd be in the same room. In fact, just the way we worked and the way we approached it, I mean, both of us had real jobs still at the time and other things and family and everything to focus on. So it was already not necessarily challenging, but it was already a task fitting this into our everyday lives as it is. So it worked out really well with how we were set up and also how we were wired probably a little bit.
Wow, that's very impressive to be doing this kind of on the side within a 6-month deadline. All these commitments that obviously everyone is familiar with, work and family life and household and all the things that come with life, and then to do this on top, that's very impressive. So congratulations.
And that's why I mentioned at the beginning, it's good to be naive sometimes at the beginning of these projects, because honestly, looking back, if someone would have said, hey, this is what it would look like, then I would have probably said, no chance we'll be able to do that, and no chance we can do it in half a year. We didn't expect it. It was a fun process, but knowing before and ahead of time how this was going to turn out would not have been an advantage for us.
Okay. Did you ever kind of go back and look at, let's say, the hours you've spent, like average per day or average per week? Or what would you say?
I guess not in like a detailed sense. Yeah, no, I haven't, to be honest. Simply because, and this might sound a little bit cheesy, but simply because it was so enjoyable, and it was more, of course, yes. I mean, in the end, I structured in a way that, hey, in the morning, first hour or so, I would just work on this and then be done with it. But it was also, you're out on a walk, you're listening to a podcast, you're visiting somewhere, or these things start coming to you more or less. Yeah, I think it's difficult to then differentiate that part between working on it and not working on it, because it was such a constant input and you're constantly looking for things. It was definitely a large project, and I'm glad to not have done it by myself. But I never counted up the hours what it was to put into that.
Okay. Right. What maybe, so you mentioned there's the four themes, four categories which the quote and the stories fit under. Do you have a favorite kind of topic, or even just a favorite quote?
I mean, I get but writing a book on quotes, I get this asked a lot, and there's probably about 400 quotes or so in the book. There is one in particular that, independent of the book, that I always really enjoyed, and then there's so many quotes that even 2-3 years later now, or with the English version 1 year later, I rediscover, and it just fits life very well. There's one, and that I really enjoyed that, probably for much longer than writing the book. It's by an American philosopher, Will Durant, and it's along the lines of excellence is maybe I'm struggling a little bit right now. It's along the lines of, excellence is not something that occurs one time. It's more or less a habit. It's something that you do every day. Which really, I think, is also what this entire book was about. It's not today I'm gonna be great, or today I'm gonna do this, or today I'm gonna do that well. it's more or less of it's a step-by-step approach, and it's really a thing that if you do something, even not excellent, if you do something good or decent every single day, in the end, it accumulates to something much more than just the parts of, or the individual parts of it. There's another one by Mike Tyson that I really like. He is, he's known as one of the greatest boxers ever, but he also said a couple of very smart things, and one of it is every man has a plan until he gets punched in the face, which is also really cool, because you can plan out everything, and no matter where you are in life, you can plan out a lot of things, and you can really have some great thoughts. Once you start struggling, again, wherever that in life is, this is where really it turns out a little bit, okay, what is happening to my plan now, and how can I take it from there? So I like kind of this, this image of like this tough boxer, and obviously his history with also Holyfield, I think, who it was that he bit the ear off, and then actually saying something so profoundly simple but intelligent that always resonated with me. And I could go on in this. There's depending on where I'm at in life and what you need right now, there's always quotes that I think are resonating more or less with me at the time. But these are definitely my two favorites.
I think I definitely heard the Mike Tyson one, and there's another kind of spin on that, and that's probably from someone like from some general that basically said no plan survives first contact with the enemy, or something like that, which is basically the same thing, right? All your plans go out the window when things don't go according to plan, basically. And
I think this is even in moments like that, it's good to remember that, to say, hey, okay, this is also part of it, that this is where you need to reshape or redevelop something, and I think incredibly valuable. But this is, I'm a big quote fan, so I'm easily excited about these things. I haven't heard the spin that you just mentioned, but awesome,
Yeah, I mean, it would be weird if you weren't a quote fan, having written the book. But no, this is awesome. This was great. Thank you, Leon, for sharing your kind of your insights and talking about the book. Maybe the last thing we can touch on before we wrap up, the book not only has the quotes and the stories, there's also like monthly challenges. Maybe tell us a little bit, tell the potential, hopefully the reader who wants to pick up the book after listening to this, tell them a little bit about what that's about, and why it is there, why you think it fits into what the mission or the vision of the book is, and what the challenges are, perhaps.
Yeah, sure. The challenges were something that we thought of towards the later, or towards the end of the book, but which is something that I'm really glad we included, because in the end, a book is very theoretic, a lot of theory, and it's super easy to write about these things and write something motivational and just say, hey, just go out and do it, or whatever. That's a really easy part, and this is very far away. Actually, we in the end notice, hey, this is very far away from who Max and me, so my co-author and me, really are, because in the end we are really more people that go out and do something. So with these challenges, we try to, and there is 12 challenges in the book, one for each month. With the challenges, we try to make the transition from the theoretical part into the practical part, into giving the reader some insights into, hey, this is something you could do to apply these things. So we included challenges on, challenges for the body, physical challenges for the mind. So it's more something like, hey, this is not because athletes usually don't have a struggle with doing something physically, but challenges for the mind. And then also some challenges around more like social aspects. So because in the end for us also what was sports and exercise and being an athlete was always about is the social part of it, the team structure, the camaraderie that comes with it. So more a challenge that fosters that a little bit. And I think in the end this is really what helps hopefully the reader, and this is in the end what we really want, is to not necessarily say, hey, I'm doing this challenge specifically, but has some thinking about, hey, how can I apply these things that I read about here into my daily life? Because that's also the part of motivation. Usually when you're motivated, when you're excited about something, it's usually in a very comfortable setting. You read the book, for example, during your morning coffee. You say, hey, yes, super excited right now, super motivated, but how do I make this a lasting thing? And that's what was our hope a little bit with these challenges, to include that. And the funny thing is, I didn't think much about this, and Max came up with it and said, hey, let's include these challenges. So yeah, sure, and we worked on these, and it turned out really great. It turned out into a part of the book, but it really turned into a part of the book that readers enjoy tremendously, where he said, hey, this is really, that helps us to then apply these things that we just read about. Which is something I didn't expect, because it was from the very far beginning, not even on our roadmap, to then have it included and people really loving it. So this is cool to see. And it's not really, there's simple challenges like, hey, just for next month, start with a cold shower or something like that. It's not like that we make this super hard and that this has to be the challenge, but more give inspiration to, hey, this is maybe something you could think of, or maybe do a modification of this or that. So yeah, the challenges are kind of from the reading, the theory, getting into the doing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And obviously, as a coach, I love that, because so much is about talking and telling people, and people generally know, right? You should be exercising, you should be eating this, you should be sleeping, but then making the transition from the theory to the practice, and reading a book can be more of the former, right? Whatever it is that you're reading, if you don't actually ideally immediately take an action, even if it's a small action, then it's almost as if you've just wasted the time, so to say. You've read something, but you're not applying it, therefore nothing will change.
And I think you mentioned the most important part there. I think in the end, it's not really about more knowledge, because we know, just looking at your perspective from a coach, everybody knows, hey, I should be more active, I should exercise more, I should sleep more, or whatever it might be. These things and the significance of it and why it is important, that is known. What is missing is okay, the transition from that. And this is also where really the magic lies now. I think there's no magic pill to that. Of course, a motivational book can be part of that as much as a coach can be. But this is really the key, at least nowadays. Knowledge is not really the issue anymore. It's very well known. Of course, there might be some fine tunes. Hey, this exercise program or this recovery program or whatever might be better, give you an extra edge or an extra %. But in the end, it's really that transition that gets you into the doing that is the most important one. Period. You can read all about motivation. In the end, you have to get out and get going.
Perfect. I couldn't have said it better. And I think this is a perfect place to kind of end this episode and basically be like, okay, people, now you've listened to this, now go out and do it. So thank you, Leon. Thank you for your time. Thanks for writing the book. I really liked it. I must admit, I haven't read all of it yet, but I definitely will get back into it now, and I will also I'll also try a challenge or two. So thank you for time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And the book is not meant to be read in one sitting, so we hope this is more of a lifelong companion that you pick up at certain points in your life, and maybe you find a nice nugget or two in there. Yeah, thanks for having me.
See you next time.
See ya.